Hi, this is Bob Iaccino. I'm the Chief Market Strategist and Head of Research at TrendyTrade.com and TrendyTrade Pro. This is going to be an extremely interesting week because we're very data light here in the US. So let's talk about some things other than the equities first. Euro US dollar has moved back up, nearing that 118 level. That's going to obviously need to be broken to get to 120. It's kind of theater of the obvious that you have to get above 118 to get to 120. But we pulled back, and we at TrendyTrade have been saying that that was probably a good level to buy Euro US dollar. And so far that's turned out. We'll get to why that's going to matter later in the week in a second. We've got copper and a lot of the other base metals up quite a bit today, over 1%. And there's no real supply and demand news on copper. It's just about optimism about the manufacturing economy globally. So when you see that happen, you tend to think that the rest of the market may pull with it. We're not getting that as of yet, but with the S&P in the US down a little bit, most of the global equity indices either slightly down or unchanged. Now, as we get later into the week, you're going to get a little bit of data out of the EU, and you're going to get a whole lot of conversation about Jackson Hole, Wyoming. The annual Fed Symposium happens Thursday and Friday with speakers Janet Yellen and Mario Draghi, both speaking on Friday. And Mario Draghi speaking later in the day, 2 o'clock Central Time. So there's going to be a lot of speculation as to whether they're going to be referring to monetary policy or not. Let's take those one at a time. U.S. monetary problem is a bit of a problem. We've got a CPI that's trending lower, we've got jobs numbers that are trending higher, and all the other data is mixed to lower. There's not a lot of data coming out in the US that is pointing to an extremely strong economy other than jobs. And even the jobs numbers, we're not getting wage growth like you'd like to see. So the US CPI well below that 2%, it has been trending down over the last 6 months. Now the ECB has a different set of problems. The ECB also had a weak CPI number last week. But the problem is, in terms of their quantitative easing program, is they're coming up to legal limits of what they can buy, and they legally have to start tapering. Now, Mario Draghi has said he's not going to address that now. We'll see. He said he's not going to address it on Friday at Jackson Hole. Back to the U.S., some of the Fed speakers have been saying things like, we still think it's appropriate for balance sheet normalization. So what does balance sheet normalization mean? It means not reinvesting the proceeds from expired securities into new securities. That's going to leave a lot of supply on the market and could turn interest rates higher. Right now, the 10-year note behind me is back at about 219 on the yield. That's not something we are really looking at today, but it's going to matter if the Fed here in the US starts to normalize rates. Let's jump over to crude oil really quick. Crude oil, the sentiment has kind of turned bullish, but the overall charts have not yet. They may, because as investor sentiment turns, here come the breakouts. We have not gotten that breakout yet. In terms of rig counts over the last 6 weeks, we're now flat. We were down 7 and up 7 over the last 6 weeks, net. That's up 2, down 1, up 2, down 1, up 3, down 5 this past Friday. So crude oil got a big bid on Friday. We've given about half of that back so far. But again, the main thing that everybody's going to be doing is quietly trading, looking for headlines out of the White House. There's a big Gary Cohn sell-off on Thursday, and then there was a big rally back when Steve Bannon was ousted and Gary Cohn was said to be staying at the White House. Gary Cohn is seen as the tip of the spear for tax reform. So we're looking for headlines out of the White House for the equity markets early in the week as we get in toward Jackson Hole later in the week. This is Bob Iaccino, Chief Market Strategist and Head of Research for TrendyTrade.com and TrendyTrade Pro. Coming soon, TrendyTrade Hedge.